Welcome back to Port Elizabeth, the beautiful city. This is part 4. I tried to record it previously propping this phone up on a kind of a tripod, a makeshift tripod. The problem is you can't adjust the phone to make sure you get a decent picture, because filming off a screen isn't easy. So I'm hoping that even though there's a bit of a camera shake, I mean, I don't have the DTs yet, but I hope to at least be able to show you everything better than I was achieving there. So, yeah, this Pearson Conservatory, fantastic building built from 1882. Lovely plants. It was a huge tourist attraction in St. George's Park. Now, unfortunately, it's cordoned off with a wire fence because of vagrancy. This was how it looked in the late 80s when I photographed it. There was that nice tree aloe there, which they removed. But the restoration wasn't bad, and there's a plaque up there explaining how Henry Pearson, a former mayor of PE, he instigated the construction of this. I like the light I got that evening, that late afternoon in midwinter. So the sun always sort of in winter sets at a good point to be able to film this thing. The fountain was no longer operational. They'd sort of refurbished it, but done away with. This was from my picture in the 80s. And it was, this might have even been in the 90s before they refurbished. And it was an operational fountain. Minimal use now, and probably virtually none, now that it's all been sealed off, of the building for actually growing plants. So I probably got it when it was in its prime in terms of having just been restored. But they weren't interested in plants and stuff. Yeah, my sons and cousin having a jol. Yeah, the mana. Then we went to the Prince Alfred's Guard Memorial. We'll get on to Prince Alfred Guard later, but this is in St. George's Park, not far from the Pearson Conservatory. And it was on top of the second, what do they call it? Reservoir, the second reservoir in the city. So this established in 1856 and named Prince Alfred's Guard was named after the Queen Victoria's second son, who visited in 1860, visited PE. So this thing was made in Scotland, like so much else, as the foundry was in Glasgow. And it's an Art Nouveau design with the old Port Elizabeth coat of arms featured here. So it's good old colonial symbolism there. So it used to be surrounded by sort of little ponds with, I suppose, water plants and stuff. And then it's now just been turned into a garden. all these lovely ceramic bowls around it. Wonderful feature. I think these trees have been removed, sadly. I like them standing there. And then we went to 1799 Fort Frederick, which overlooks the harbour. And of course, a vagrant was occupying this is the magazine, that little building there inside Fort Frederick. So one of our oldest heritage sites had just been commandeered, lovely. And that's the plaque that by that stage hadn't actually been stolen, but maybe it's still there. And this was the grave site of Captain Francis Everett, who was buried there, and he died at age 80 in 1850, and he saw the arrival of the 1820 settlers. He oversaw it. Then we moved to the Donkin Reserve, which I consider the sort of heart of PE. And here we've got the lighthouse from 1861, I think it is, and the 1820 pyramid, which Sir Rufane Donkin erected in memory of his wife Elizabeth, who died in 1817 in India while he was over there. My nephew reading the story of Donkin's wife and how he came to name this thing. And this used to be the symbol of Port Elizabeth, was this combination. And so they, in the I think just before I got there in 2014, they refurbished this area and they built this lovely mosaic, which sadly 6 years later, I discovered was crumbling in several places. So instead of maintaining this asset, which they pump money, our taxpayers' money, ratepayers' money into, it's being allowed to just deteriorate. And that's the story of so much of South Africa. It's fighting entropy, really. So down below here, we've got the Opera House roof, the roof of the Opera House, and St. Augustine's Cathedral. And then that's Campanile, 1923, commemorating the arrival of the 1820 settlers. And just a detail of that mosaic, which is now threatened, and a statue of Mandela. So they basically combined Mandela, who has no actual links with Port Elizabeth, but they've called it Nelson Mandela Bay in his honor, which made no sense at all. But anyway, it was quite a clever way of integrating something that was politically correct with the actual heritage of Port Elizabeth, which is involved in this Donkin and his wife and the British settlers and people who actually built this city. So anyway, there's Stuart, my nephew, talking to the Mandela statue about this and explaining. And then I had to conclude with this interesting shadow image of the voting line, Anthony Harris's work. Anyway, that's it for now. Cheers.